Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look over another gun from my own personal collection, and that is the Tokyo Marui AUG High Cycle. Now the AUG, or AUG if you prefer, actually started off life in around 1978, where it was developed for and adopted by the Austrian military. And the reason for that is that they were looking for something to replace their current crop of guns, and they were looking for something that was essentially a jack of all trades. So being modular, they could swap certain components, barrels, etc. out and turn this from anything to a carbine, an SMG, a full-length rifle, and in some cases even a sniper rifle or a support weapon. Now, in terms of airsoft, the AUG really only comes as a rifle. I'm sure there are some conversion kits that would allow it to run as the SMG, sporting a 9mm magazine. I myself have not come across this out on the field, but I'm sure someone could 3D print something. Either way, what we have here in this Tokyo Marui option is a very good and very accurate depiction of an AUG. So we have a gun that is entirely polymer, front to back. Obviously internals, barrels, etc. are the exception to that. But yeah, a polymer outer shell, very good polymer, very strong, very sturdy. Even the pistol grip is made all in one piece, as the actual real steel variant would be. You have this vertical grip, which incidentally this particular setup doesn't appear on the real steel variant of the gun. They have a system whereby the vertical grip is actually attached to the barrel assembly and folds forward and down as required. You do find that on some airsoft variants. I think the Jingong is one. But Tokyo Marui have gone for this particular system. It's very good, very sturdy, does exactly what you want it to do, and in my opinion, looks the part. So, moving back along the gun, obviously we have this this long top rail. Again, unfortunately polymer in design, but very well manufactured. I've had no problem mounting anything in terms of size and fitment. Very, very good. Optics are also plastic, unfortunately. It might have been nice to see some metal in there, but not to be. But either way, you're likely to actually replace it with an optic of your own design anyway. So, as I say, the pistol grip and handguard here is all polymer, as found on the real version. Again, because it's Tokyo Marui, the polymer is really, really good quality. You're not going to find any stress fractures or cracks. It will more than likely stand a bit of punishment. I wouldn't go thrashing it around, but you know, horses for courses. In terms of the charging handle, like the real version, it is lockable into a vertical position, and that will give you access via the dust cover into your hop-up adjustment there. You could MP5 slap it down, but I'm not going to. The little plastic cover can be removed, chambered over to the other side, although there's really no point. We're not actually ejecting anything. So, as I say previously, this is, although it's got the SMG setup in terms of barrel length, it is obviously the 5.56 variant, if you like. These polymer mags are very, very good, very durable, and very reminiscent of the actual design used in the AUG. So, all nice there. They are wind up, but all in all, very, very nice. Mag release is a thumb release just on the back of the stock, and you have a quick fill window there. And being slightly transparent, you can actually have a good idea of what you've got left in the mag at any one time. I know the lighting here probably isn't conducive to that, but trust me, out in the field you'll be able to see through it. Now, in terms of battery space, it's all via the removable pad at the rear. It's not too bad. You're not going to have any issues with batteries anyway. You're going to be wanting to run a 7.4, being all Tokyo Marui stuff. You need to protect the contacts a little bit. 7.4 is the way to go, unless you're heavily upgrading and putting in Titan gates and what have you. What else? The real advantage to this particular AUG is that motor, that EG3000 Tokyo Marui motor. It's a high output design, meaning this has an exceptional rate of fire on full auto. All in all, a very good gun. One last thing to touch upon is the actual fire selector. You have, again, much like the real AUG, you have the selector as a push pin through. So we're on safe at the minute. Push it through, you see a single red dot, you're on semi, and all the way through, you're on full auto. That being said, you have a two-stage trigger as well. So you will have an initial pull, which will initiate a single fire, and as you pull the trigger back even further, that's when it flexes into full auto. Now, that's where the disadvantage, in my opinion, of this gun comes. When I purchased this gun, and maybe when you purchase something similar, I looked at this and thought, this has got CQB written all over it. It's short size, being a bullpup, it's still got a good barrel length. I misinterpreted what I could actually use it for, I feel. Because going for the high cycle variant, the advantage you get with this is that rate of fire. Taking it into CQB, you completely negate that because you're not actually allowed to use it in a lot of instances. The engagement distance is too small and semi-auto is all you're allowed to use. Thus, this becomes unwarranted for a CQB environment anyway. And then it becomes a bit of a crutch, if you will, because this trigger is not the best trigger you could possibly take into CQB. Two-stage triggers are notorious for having a slightly longer pull, they're less responsive, and all in all, to activate the full auto, you want to be laying on the trigger anyway. For semi-auto, it's just not responsive enough, unfortunately, is the real, crux of it all there. So, as I say, I bought it for CQB, and it really doesn't excel at what you'd want it to excel at in that environment. This is a much better mid-range standard rifle, really. And where this has really served me well is actually in short to mid-range woodland engagements, as a standard rifle would. You'd expect that the high rate of fire would have a detrimental effect on range, but that's really not the case. As with all Tokyo Maruis, the hop-up in this is dusted and sprinkled with magic somehow, and despite only having, about 280 FPS, it's still capable of keeping range with a lot of AEGs that come in around the same sort of price. We're not talking, high-end AEGs, £500 plus, but certainly mid-tier, I would say 350s, that kind of thing. And you shouldn't really have too much of an issue. So my advice would be to not look at the high cycle anyway as your CQB option, and maybe even the AUG as a CQB option in general, because the trigger just isn't that snappy and responsive. You're always going to be outgunned by something like an ARP9, PDW9, something along those lines, or just something with an electronic trigger in general. This is a much better sort of alternative to your standard M4, whether it be a carbine or a full rifle. And the Tokyo Marui version in particular is supremely well built, as you'd expect from Tokyo Marui. That high cycle engine is a delight once you actually get it spun up and you're allowed to spin it up. And yeah, as you'd expect with Tokyo Marui, it holds a really nice range, and its ability to group shots is particularly good as well, despite, like I say, spitting out bullets like they're going out of fashion. Bullets. BBs. Let's be honest. As I say, something to consider when you're potentially purchasing one of these, and maybe it will swing you towards a Jingong or one of the other variants available if you're not looking for that high cycle. But yeah, a supremely nice gun, very nice to use. Because it's nice and short, it does leave you feeling very, very agile, mobile, and like I say, if you don't want to join that M4 crowd, this is something potentially a little bit different to take to the field. Okay, that's been my look at the Tokyo Marui AUG High Cycle. I hope it's been of some use to you guys, and maybe if you're considering purchasing one. If you have enjoyed this video, a like and a subscribe is always welcome and always appreciated. And I'll see you guys in the next one.